ask you to do some different things using your table R information. So we often see on the exams, part 2s, where you're given a structure and you are asked to circle the table R functional group. So when I take a look at this one, right here is the table R functional group. I have an OH, only one OH attached to the carbon chain. So I have, if I short form it, it's my carbon chain and I have an OH. So if I go and look at my table R, okay, and I'm taking a look at functional groups, take a look here. I have an R parent chain with an OH, which tells me that this is an alcohol. So the classifications, circle a functional group, this would be an alcohol. Also, if I did the condensed version of this, I have CH3, CH2, 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 OH. And what I notice here is I see water, HOH. Some people drink alcohol like water. Okay, going down to number 2. When I take a look through here, I notice it's just not all carbons and hydrogens. But what I see, and what I'm going to underline, is I see what looks like chocolate. So I see what looks like chocolate. And so that means that the ether bunny has come to visit. What I need to circle though, okay, for the answer, like if I have to circle it in the question, okay, so here, if I go up, I have carbon chain, I have my oxygen bridge, and then I have a second carbon chain. When I go up here with what I need to circle, this is the functional group. So in that actual structure right here, if I was asked to circle it, I have to just circle that oxygen. So I underline the sequence so I know it's an ether, then I can figure out what I need to circle as the functional group. Okay, number 3, I see a bunch of carbons and hydrogens, but I see some oxygens. And when I take a look at this, the sequence that I recognize right away is I see cook. Well, who is a good cook? Grandma. So grandma is a good cook. So because I've memorized that, I know that this is an ester. And I know that the ester, I have to figure out, okay, in that cook sequence, what do I circle? So I go back up here. I know that I'm looking for ester. Where's ester? Here we go. This is what I need to circle. So what I need to circle is this in the sequence. So even though I use cook to recognize the classification, the actual functional group is the first carbon in the word cook. That's what I've got to circle. Okay, so when I take a look at this full-blown structure, okay, this should be pretty recognizable because I see that I have a carbon chain and then I have an oxygen followed by another carbon chain. So here is my ether bunny. And if you can't see it like that, that's okay. Just write out the condensed one. So CH3OCH3. And when I take a look across this, I see chocolate. And what I need to circle is the oxygen bridge. So I'm circling what makes this an ether and classifying it as an ether. And when I went from full to condensed, I can see chocolate, helping myself out here. Okay, so when I take a look at the next one, it's mostly carbons and hydrogens, but I see this COC. It's not cooked like grandma, right? It's not chocolate, because chocolate is not CHCOC. It's not chocolate. So this is not an ether. This is not grandma. So I need to go up and take a look at my notes. So I go back up here and I take a look. So when I take a look at this one, here's that sequence, COC. I understand now, okay, I've got to recognize this as a ketone. This is what I need to circle. That double bonded oxygen belongs to the first carbon in the COC. So I understand that this is a ketone. And what I need to circle as the functional group is the oxygen and the carbon it is bonded to. So it will look something this. So this right here is that guy there. Okay, so I'm taking a look at this next one. And in this structure, I see a nitrogen. So on table R, okay, on table R at the bottom, I only have two choices where there's nitrogen. There's nitrogen, then there's nitrogen with oxygen. So when I take a look at this example, there's nitrogen but no oxygen. So nitrogen, no oxygen, I know that this is an amine. And if I did I would see something like this. So I have to circle the nitrogen. That makes it the amine. Okay, moving back to the top here. Okay, so I see this sequence and I see CHO. And that one becomes a favorite. And so CHO, and I go back up here and I take a look. Oh, there's CHO, CHO. That is an aldehyde. And if I was to draw this out, I would have my carbon. Now I have my CHO. It has the oxygen with the hydrogen. This is the functional group. And so when I take a look here with the aldehyde, this is what I need to circle in that structure, is the CHO. And that's pretty easy to recognize, to circle. So when I take a look at the next one, I notice that it ends in COOH. So when I go and take a look at this COOH, here's the sequence that I wrote down, and I take a look at it, and it belongs to the organic acid. So I know that this is some sort of organic acid. And when I take a look at what is on the table R, I have my parent chain, and I have, this would be it drawn out. So when I take a look, here we go. This is what I need to circle. So it's the carbon with the double bonded oxygen plus the OH. So I go down here, and in the actual structure, I actually circle everything that I underlined. Okay, so take a look here. I see carbons and I see an oxygen. And so I only see this oxygen, and the only thing it has on there is one double bonded oxygen. So when I take a look, okay, no double bonded oxygen, no double bonded. Here's a double bonded oxygen, but the carbon also has an H. This carbon, no H. So it can't be this. Here's a double bonded oxygen on a carbon, no H. Double bonded oxygen, but there's an OH. Here's a double bonded oxygen, but it also has a second oxygen. And then here's a double bonded oxygen with a nitrogen. The only one that fits the bill is the is the ketone because it has a carbon with a double bonded oxygen, one double bonded oxygen. So this is a ketone. So I'm looking at number 9, and when I take a look at number 9, I take a look at the sequence of letters, and I notice HOH. I notice, quote unquote, water. What do some people drink like it's water? And because I've learned that silly little thing, I can classify this as an alcohol. Now, what I need to be careful of, out of the sequence, what do I actually need to circle? So when I go back up and I recognize that that's an alcohol, I have, this is what I need to circle, is just the OH. So when I take a look at the letters that I circled, I have to circle it left to right, OH, not HO, OH. So this is the alcohol's functional group. So now take a look at number 10. Number 10, I notice that I have a carbon with a double bonded oxygen, and there's only one oxygen in the structure, and that carbon also has an H. So if I take a look at this, I have my parent chain, I have my CHO. And notice this is terminal. This is an ending carbon. So little things like this help me recognize that this is an aldehyde. And what I need to circle is I'm going to go back up and take a look at the aldehyde of what I need to circle. So here's my aldehyde. I need a carbon that has the double bonded oxygen plus the hydrogen. So I've got to circle those 3 atoms. So here is what I would need to circle to represent the aldehyde. Now, when I take a look at this one, looking left to right, this one to me is like tricky, but I notice this letter I. And this is not carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, or nitrogen. This is I. And so when I come up here to take a look, this is a halide or a halocarbon. So I'm going to use words right from table R. So I can refer to this as a halide or a halocarbon. And I need to figure out what do I actually circle for the quote-unquote functional group. So when I go back up and I take a look, this is the functional group. So I just circle that halide's symbol. So down here, I'm going to circle just the I because that's the functional group.